for game number 4, spawning down in the bottom left side, currently down 1-2, but you know, there's definitely an easy way he can pull it back in. It is going to be KeeN, and up on the top right side, it is going to be VortiX. And Apollo, I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts on this map, and also what KeeN can do to make sure he doesn't lose here 3-1.
This map, Daybreak, of course, a pretty big two-play map. You can play very macro-focused once again. Unlike in Tomb Valley, it's a little bit bigger for distances between the two bases, so KeeN can get away with the command centers and so on and so on. I doubt he'll risk his tournament life on a 2-Rax on a map like this. So I expect him to go 1 barracks command center into maybe double gas first, or maybe even go 3 command centers, maybe a little bit risky. Traditionally, I expect Reactor Hellion, Cloak Banshee out, just a very standard, if not exactly the same to how Cass played this earlier on, and VortiX will hardly change a thing.
Yeah, and I definitely like that the VortiX has thrown in several different builds so far in this series. Is he going to try and do it again on this map? Is he going to try and go for something super aggressive, or is he going to fall back on those relatively easy to secure 3 bases? There is, of course, also the sometimes it's the 3rd base, but not really. Usually the 4th or 5th base in the center, as that does have that rich Vespene geyser. Can always be so tempting to go for that. But right now we do see KeeN. He's going to be throwing down the barracks here. Completely standard wall-in stuff right here. Doesn't look like it is indeed going to be any sort of second racks right now. Although we do have an SCV going to be scouting out right now. But yeah, I mean, basically he's going to be safe here, opening up that command center first. Or after barracks, I suppose.
We do, yeah. We have the drone and SCV glide through each other in the center of the map, as both of them are scouting out to find out what their opponent's doing. So the drone will of course reveal this is not going to be a 2-Rax. The SCV will get in, and the SCV is looking to see if gases are taken after spawning pool, before spawning pool, to start to know, can I get away with going for 3 command centers? Do I need to, you know, protect myself a little bit more? And with the SCV going in there, he sees no gases early on, which is a good indication. Will probably stick around for a little bit longer if he wants to check the gases further, or can easily just return home.
He also is able to spot that expansion super easily, going back and forth there. And based on what he sees, he knows that there's not going to be a 3rd base here. Does throw down his command center. Note that that is at the natural, because he knows that, hey, there's not going to be a lot of things headed this way. It saves on flying time. I'm able to mine sooner, get my orbital up sooner, and be in pretty good shape there. We do see 1 gas going to be going down here for KeeN. Down goes the second one as well, going to be following it up there right away. But I'm kind of curious to see exactly what VortiX decides to do here once the spawning pool finishes. Most likely going to be double queen right out of the gate. And there's 1 and 2. Just make sure his inject larvas are going to overlap perfectly. And just continuing on forward from here. But, you know, from what we've seen from KeeN, do you expect a lot of Hellion play? Or do players usually on this map just use them for a little bit of map control?
It depends on how far he wants to commit to them. The more he commits, the more he has to do damage. So it's really up to him, to be honest. I mean, you can build 4 and just move over and move away, or you can go up to 8. It really just depends on the player, to be honest. But one thing for sure is that he most likely will go for X amount of Hellions into Cloak Banshee. On Cloak Banshee and Hellions in combination, it basically acts for like Protoss player minds as the Zealot Void Ray attacks towards the 3rd base. The combination of ground and air together is actually rather deadly on such a big map like this.
And both players, I mean, just watching these builds develop, they've been completely standard here. Neither player is trying to do any sort of hidden tech, no proxies, no early timed attacks like we saw in that last game. And, I mean, to be honest, to do it on this map would be so tough, because if they're able to secure even that right watchtower, if they have any way of scouting this, they're going to be able to prepare accordingly, just because the rush distances are so long. Down goes another bunker here for KeeN, which was not enough in the last game, although it could play out very differently in this game. Because, I mean, you got to remember that where you had that bunker placed in the last game, yes, it was easy to prevent a surround, but it was also difficult to repair it because those mineral patches were in the way. Down goes the reactor on that factory. Should begin Hellion production. There's Hellion numero uno, and the second one going to be following it up right away. And I think you're absolutely right. Tech lab going to be going down for, well, it looks like potentially, I guess, supposed to be for the factory here. Oh, no, he is making a second factory. So what are your thoughts on that?
Looks like Blue Flame Hellion here, and it's scouted immediately by this Overlord, which is a big indication that Cloak Banshees is not coming in, and probably we'll just see a Roach Warren come down. The Overlord sees double barracks, and that's massive. It's Blue Flame Hellion definitely, Mech potentially as the follow-up, and there comes the Roach Warren, and this is just a massive win with this scout.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got to see the upgrade on there right away. He's going to assume that it's not going to be siege tanks this early, and indeed it will be that Blue Flame. And you got to remember that, I mean, in games past, and really, you know, ever since StarCraft 2 has almost been out, is that if they're able to get blue flames and force you into a position that you have a lot of Zerglings, then that's when they're really going to pay off. Multi-pronged drop's going to be great too. But, I mean, you can see VortiX is reacting accordingly. He's not going crazy with the Lings. He knows that there's no Marine or Siege Tank timing coming out just yet. He's got the wall in completed. He's got 3 Queens down there. Still has a Queen in his main base and still nailing the injects at that natural. So he's going to be perfectly fine versus these first 4 Hellions, but with 3 more on the way, it's going to bring that number up much, much higher. And they will be able to deny this 3rd base here, but I feel like they're not going to be able to do a whole lot more than that.
And with all the gases taken here, I wonder if the follow-up here, instead of going for 1-1 upgrades, could potentially for going for the Spire. The Spire would be a decent little transition, knowing that there's no anti-air in place, that he's dedicated a lot of resources to Blue Flame, which he can't use, and KeeN knows that, and throws down a 3rd command center down, and it's like, well, damn it, you know, that was scouted really early on, I didn't do anything with them, and he's going to try anyway here, but with the amount of roaches out, and Queen back up, I don't think he can do anything here, but there are a lot of Hellions, 11. Is he going to be able to break through the roach count? It's currently sitting at 7.
You know, right now, VortiX, I mean, of course he can't see what's going on the map, but as you're mentioning, that is a lot of Hellions, so if he gets out of position for just 1 second, and that's still a pretty wide open doorway there, he's got to leave his units there to defend that. Otherwise, those Hellions will easily run into the main, run into the natural, kill all your drones all at the same time. So it's one of those kind of glass cannon builds that KeeN's going, where it's very good in some situations, but also very vulnerable in other situations. The Hellion count should be spotted here now. The Queen right there in the wrong place at the wrong time, almost enough to 2-shot a Queen, which just shows you how many absurd amounts of Hellions he actually has. But he's got to be so careful not to let them in the base. Losing a Queen here and there is okay. Letting them in the mineral line is not okay.
And VortiX never over-droned here, sitting on 50 drones. Toon base saturation is now adding on 5 more roaches and 12 more lings. It looks like he's going to push this back, no problem. He's going to lose another Queen though in the middle here. By the looks of it, no, it does escape by the nick of its teeth there. And things looking excellent here for VortiX, who now can start droning towards this base. But he has the Spire too, and can actually throw in the twist of Mutalisk, which could be quite damageful over to KeeN.
Yeah, and he does have enough money to do just that. You can see him saving up a lot of it while he does follow it up with the 1-1. Interesting choice on the melee upgrade, just because, I mean, again, there's so many Hellions here. It's got to be tough for the Lings to engage that. But if he can get a good surround, Lings can still be cost-effective in those battles if he gets out enough of them. The +1/+1 going to help, but what's going to help more is the 7 Mutalisks. Taking a look at KeeN's base. Does he have any anti-air planned? Well, he does have that double engineering bay up finally. Does have the starport on the way. So if these Mutalisks stop to dance around with the Hellions, then that will once again buy time for missile turrets. One is already going down, though. And you got to remember that Hellions are able to basically outrun Mutalisks. So even if you're able to hover them over the Hellions, they can usually escape just fine. But I feel like the Mutalisks need to go undetected, but nope, decides he's going to go for the Hellion kills.
Yeah, he goes in there, does get a couple of kills, but now that's going to allow, as you said, now that it's been detected, turrets to come up in place. And are the Mutalisks going to be able to do anything? That 3rd base, though, of KeeN, so early. He's actually moved to grab that really early on here, considering the amount of resources he's invested in Hellions. He doesn't really have anything to protect it, so this 3rd base will probably have to be evacuated immediately, especially if those Lings and Roaches come to help out.
Could go for that Siege Tank, which would be a huge pickup here, and they might be able to get... No, the angle's not the best there. He is forced to retreat, does lose 1 Muta there, and that's quite the nice win there for KeeN, as that Siege Tank took a grand total of 0 damage. It does look like there was a minor supply block there for KeeN, but I feel like his defense has got to be solid enough. He'll easily be able to spend those resources. Has retained a lot of his Hellions, which are surprisingly effective in the mid game at dealing with Zerglings. You can even chase down Infestors with them if you're good. But right now, the Mutalisk count is not that high, so I feel like KeeN is going to be just fine here moving forward.
Very smart play from VortiX, actually. I was thinking about it. Moving those Roach and Lings to aid the Mutalisk to do damage to the 3rd, sure. He can get damage on the 3rd, but he opens himself up to a massive counterattack through these Blue Flame Hellions. So it's very smart saying, well, I don't really need to do damage because I can defend quite easily. And if I don't defend it easily, then I lose all my drones because I'm not right at the moment building units, I'm building drones still. But now as he starts building units across the map, he is now ready to launch an attack because he has units to defend all over the place. He has map control now with the Mutalisks and the Xel'Naga towers, and we're about to see quite a big attack towards this base, or natural, I don't know where he's going to go, but a scan reveals all these units, and that's going to give KeeN the heads up he needs.
And also potentially time to get out combat shields. It just finished. The timing here could not be worse for VortiX. He has got to go for it, but you do not want to engage this army. Oh, this is going to get completely out. He does have a lot of roaches here. Most of them aren't attacking, though, and that is going to be held up as easy as possible. Just look at that unit's loss tab, 5,600 to 2,200. I mean, that's why you got to be careful engaging a Terran who's kind of sunk his teeth, sunk his feet down. I don't know why he would be sinking his teeth, man. I don't know, but he's going to be in pretty good shape here to defend that, and that's exactly what we saw. I mean, you just cannot suffer losses like that.
And, well, this kind of sucks now for VortiX. He opens himself up to a massive timing window where 2-2-1 is going to be on the way here, a massive army here for KeeN too. And the Infestation Pit is incredibly delayed. Fungal, incredibly delayed, simply because of all the money he spent in the Mutalists and the Banelings to do that attack. And it did nothing. And KeeN has an easy win in his pocket if he doesn't mess this up. All he needs to do is walk across the map, go through the middle, hug the Xel'Naga tower, put an attack on that 4th base, and force VortiX to take an engagement. And if KeeN is spread out and is playing this nicely, then this can seem a very easy win.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really rough spot. He's forced to get Hive Tech, which is already delayed. He's forced to get Pathogen Glands, which is also delayed, which is a lot of money done. This army, the Siege Tanks are caught a little bit out of position, but unless he gets some crazy Baneling hits, this army is ready and waiting on the left side. He did manage to even that up a little bit, but I mean, that is not going to be enough here. He's got to somehow kill all these Marines without losing anything, which is actually impossible right here. This 4th base is going to get taken out. There's another base down the bottom right side. That's going to be vulnerable after this attack. And a lot of drones here are going to get taken out instantly, not even able to save those. I mean, this is just kind of a slow, painful death here for VortiX, as KeeN holding out that attack without even really having to micro that much means that, as we mentioned, he can just kind of attack, move his way up here. Yes, Siege Tanks are now in position as well. The roaches might be able to take him out, but no, that's not even going to happen here. More and more reinforcements on the way, and VortiX just does not have that much to follow this up with.
And this becomes a lot harder now with 2-2 finishing on the Marines, +1 attack on attacks as well. Even though we'll clean up probably the small amount of Marines here, he's never going to be able to deal with the reinforcements after losing that 4th base. He's never going to have a massive swarm, a great-sized army to deal with what KeeN is going to do now. And that's going to be dealing with the 4th base. And now it's going to be 4 Terran bases versus 3 Zerg, a position that no Zerg player ever wants to be in. And KeeN, realizing he's in such a good position, is going to now drop the main at the same time. And this may force VortiX into an attack on this 4th base, which in a defensive stance with Siege Tanks in a defensive hiding around the Xel'Naga tower, almost untouchable.
And you know what? I think that VortiX realizes the bad spot he's in. He's trying to buy enough time to get down in Ultralisk Cavern with a couple of infestors. There is a drop inside the main base. It will kill the Ultralisk Cavern. He GG's the second before it dies. That's exactly why he left.